All right, so today we're diving into software testing. You might be thinking, uh-oh, is this going to be a boring one? But stick with us. We promise things are going to get interesting. We're not talking about those boring, rigid step-by-step scripts. It's not all going to be like that today. Today, it's all about exploratory testing, where you get to become like a detective of the digital world.
Yeah, think about it. We're in the age of agile development. Everything's moving so fast. Software's constantly evolving. There's not enough time for those old school testing methods. They just can't keep up. That's where exploratory testing really comes in.
Yeah, like trying to solve a case. With only half the clues, you need to be able to just think on your feet, follow those hunches, and just adapt as you go. And that's kind of what we're going to unpack today.
Exactly. Approaching software with a really curious and critical eye. Finding those hidden issues that scripted tests just miss entirely.
Right. So let's just start by defining what exploratory testing actually is. Help us understand this.
Okay. So at its core, exploratory testing is all about simultaneous learning, designing, and executing tests. It's a very dynamic process where you're not just following a script, you're learning about the software as you go, designing tests based on what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And, executing them in real time.
Okay, so I'm picking up on this real-time thing. That sounds kind of intense.
It can be. It's about responding to what the software is doing, following your instincts, uncovering those unexpected quirks. That could lead to bigger problems down the line.
So it's like you're almost having a conversation with the software to see how it reacts in different situations.
That's a great way to put it. This is where those 3 key skills come in: curiosity, critical thinking, and adaptability.
Okay, let's break those down. Curiosity seems pretty straightforward. You need to be eager to explore, right?
Absolutely. It's all about asking what if. What if a user enters this type of data? What if they try to access this feature from a different device? What happens if the internet connection drops in the middle of something?
So you're actively looking for ways to challenge the software, to see how it holds up under pressure.
Exactly. And that's where critical thinking comes in. You're not just randomly clicking around. You need to analyze the software from different perspectives. Think about potential weak points and really try to anticipate how real users might interact with it in ways that you haven't even thought of.
Right. And how does adaptability fit into all of this?
Well, in Agile, things change quickly. New features are added. Designs are tweaked. Requirements evolve. You need to be flexible and ready to adjust your testing as the software changes.
So it's kind of like being a detective who's constantly gathering new clues and adjusting their investigation as the case unfolds.
Exactly. You might start with one strategy in mind, but then you discover something unexpected. That leads you down a totally different path. That's what's so cool about exploratory testing. It lets you respond to the software in real time, which could lead to more meaningful discoveries.
Now, our source material mentions these things called heuristics and mnemonics, which honestly sound kind of intimidating. Can you break those down for us?
Yeah, of course. They're actually really helpful. Once you understand them, heuristics are like mental shortcuts for testers, like rules of thumb that guide you towards potential problems. One example is the Hurash heuristic. It focuses on constraints, resources, authentication, security, and different states of the system.
Okay, so instead of just kind of wandering around, you've got these guiding principles to focus your exploration.
Exactly. And mnemonics are memory aids. They help you remember different aspects to check. Like one popular one is SFDIPOT, which stands for structure, function, data, interfaces, platforms, operations, and time. Make sure you're covering all the bases.
Oh, that's actually pretty clever, like a mental checklist to keep you on track.
Yeah, and these tools help make your testing more systematic and efficient, even though it's still driven by exploration and discovery.
This is all starting to make sense, but I'm curious, why is this all so important? What are the big benefits of embracing exploratory testing?
So first and foremost, exploratory testing is great at finding those subtle but critical issues that traditional scripted tests might miss. Because you're not stuck to a script. You have the freedom to explore the software from all these different angles. You follow your intuition and respond to how the software is behaving in real time.
So it's almost like having that human touch, that layer of critical thinking and adaptability to uncover those hidden problems.
Exactly. And this is especially useful in Agile, where software is constantly evolving. Requirements can change really quickly. Exploratory testing lets you keep up with those changes and adapt your testing as the software changes.
Yeah, it's like having a testing team that's really nimble and responsive, ready to tackle those unexpected challenges that come up in fast-paced environments.
For sure. And we can't forget about the user experience. By approaching software with this curious and critical mindset, exploratory testers can provide great insights into how real users might interact with the product, which can lead to improvements in design, usability, and just overall satisfaction.
Right, so it's not just about finding bugs, it's about understanding how the software feels from the user's perspective.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another benefit: early detection. Exploratory testing can be super valuable early on in development, even before the software is completely finished. By getting involved early, testers can find potential issues with the design or how things work, and that feedback can really help shape how the product is developed.
So it's like you've got a testing team that's like embedded in the development process, providing feedback, helping guide the product toward a better user experience.
Exactly. And this can save so much time and resources by catching those issues before they become major problems later on.
This all sounds amazing, but I'm sure there are some challenges too. Nothing's ever perfect.
Of course not. One of the biggest challenges is documentation, because exploratory testing isn't scripted and relies a lot on the tester's judgment and intuition. It can be hard to document every single step taken to find a specific issue.
So replicating those issues and verifying fixes could be a bit trickier.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid concern. But skilled exploratory testers are good at documenting their findings in a way that's clear and actionable, even without those detailed step-by-step instructions.
Like a detective putting all the clues together and presenting their findings in a way that's easy to understand.
Exactly. Another challenge is that it relies on skilled testers. You need people who can think critically, analyze complex systems, and make good decisions on the fly.
So it's not just clicking around. You need the experience and intuition to know where to look.
Right. And finding those skilled testers can be tough. But the benefits of exploratory testing usually outweigh the challenges, especially now with how fast software development moves.
Okay, so we've talked about the benefits, the challenges, and the main ideas behind exploratory testing. Now I'm curious, when is the best time to actually use it?
Well, like we said, agile environments are great for it. Because exploratory testing is so flexible and adaptable, it's perfect for keeping up with those quick changes and evolving requirements.
It's like the testing team is in sync with the development team.
Exactly. And then there are those projects where time is really tight, and you need to find critical issues fast. With exploratory testing, you can jump right in, focus on the most important areas, and you don't have to spend time writing out all those test scripts.
Like a rapid response team for software?
That's a good way to put it. And don't forget, exploratory testing is really valuable in the early stages, even when the software is still a work in progress. It's all about getting that early feedback, which can save you time and headaches in the long run.
So whether you're building something brand new or working on something that already exists, it's always a good idea to use exploratory testing.
I agree. And it's really important to try to mimic how real users behave. People use software in ways we don't expect sometimes. With exploratory testing, you can go beyond those usual paths, explore those unexpected situations, and find those hidden problems.
It's like having testers who think like users, but also have the expertise to find those really important issues.
Exactly. And something important to remember is you don't have to choose between exploratory testing and traditional testing. They can work together.
Oh, so it's not an either thing.
Not at all. Traditional testing gives you that structured foundation and makes sure the core functionality is tested well. Then, exploratory testing adds flexibility, creativity, and real-world simulation. So together they make a really strong testing strategy.
Like having a toolbox with all the right tools. You've got your hammer and nails for the basic stuff, and then you've got your more specialized tools for the more complex jobs.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. It's about knowing the strengths of each approach and when to use them.
Wow. This has been a really cool look at exploratory testing. I feel like we've learned a lot today. But before we finish up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about the human element.
Yeah, that's super important. Software is made for people to use right. So the testing process should be human too.
Like we're saying, intuition, creativity, even being a little playful, those can be powerful tools for finding problems in software.
For sure. It's about moving beyond just following scripts and using a more exploratory mindset. And this isn't just for testers. Anyone who works on software can benefit from this.
So like developers, designers, product managers, even users, they can all use this explorer mindset and look at software with a critical eye.
Exactly. The more we encourage that kind of thinking, the better the software we'll create. Software that's not just functional, but also really enjoyable to use.
This deep dive has definitely made me more curious, and I bet our listeners are feeling inspired too. So before we go, I want to leave you with a question. Think about the software you use every day. How could you use this exploratory testing mindset to find those hidden issues, those little things that might slip through the cracks?
Remember, it's all about asking what if and being open to exploring different paths. You never know what you might find.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks to all our listeners. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.